G'day tubers, how are we people? A big hello to my subscribers, my viewers, and anyone else who contributes anything at all to these videos. Well, here we are in Melbourne in Australia in July of 2021, and the virus, or I should say the China virus, is still hanging around. Sydney's really copping it at the moment. They're in massive lockdown. Melbourne's just gone back into a 5-day lockdown. We were having a pretty good run there of what the media are calling donut days. In other words, no recorded new cases of the China virus. But yeah, having said that, a big massive thank you to the people who brought the China virus to us. I don't think I need to say too much more. Haven't had a lot of projects lately and haven't been away, can't get away. But we picked up this little reduction gearbox on eBay the other day. So we're going to pull it to bits, clean it up, have a look what makes it work, and maybe, I don't know, hook it up to something, hook it up to an engine or something and go from there. Yeah, so let's go, people.
Well, tubers, as promised, here's another little project. I haven't done one for a while, as you know. It's a Threadco right angle reduction gearbox. It's 18.5 to 1, I think it says on the back. If you have a look, you can just make out here. Pretty sure that says 18.5 to 1 and 4187. Must be some sort of a serial number or something, or a part number possibly, but yeah, it's Threadco. I haven't been able to find out much about them. Yeah, it's 18 to 1 worm drive. That's your input shaft. So in other words, 18 turns of that will result in 1 turn on the output shaft. So it's geared quite low. First inspection, you can see this shaft has been butchered somewhat. It did have a piece of rubber hose clamped on it with hose clamps, and that was acting as a drive. Now, I don't know what it's off. You can see a little bit of yellow paint there and that. Look, it could be off an old powered mower or some sort of powered farm equipment or anything. I have no idea than that. Just looking at the gear on the output, I don't know if you can make it out. It says 23 tooth half-inch P. So I'm tipping the half-inch P is half-inch pitch. That would be between there and there, or there and there, I imagine. And down there it sort of says A something AMS. That could be Adams or something like that. I don't know. That's probably the manufacturer of the gear. Doesn't look too bad. I mean, there's a few little cosmetic dents in it and that, but we should be able to clean up. There's that A or 4187 again. Alrighty, there looks like there's a bit of a seal in the end there. Down there, there's a couple of, you can just make them out. 2 little dots on either side of that housing, or that flange or whatever. It's a witness mark, probably from the factory, because you can see they're almost identical, so it might be from the factory. So it's a reference for reassembly. So you put it back the same way, because it's probably been machined that way, possibly, I don't know. We're going to clean it up. We're going to pull it to bits, we're going to clean it up, and I don't know what I'll do with it. I might, I don't know, try and power some little thing or make some little thing. I've got no shortage of motors to turn it. I don't think it'd be a high load sort of a thing. They're not massive big bearings and that in there. We'll see when we get it apart, but it's a aluminium or magnesium alloy of some sort. I couldn't even tell you what country it's made in. But we shall see. Yeah, so there should be, hopefully this will, come up all right. Well, these screws on the back are pretty tight, people. So what we'll do is we'll get the old Threadco impact driver onto them. I've had this thing since the 70s. Don't even know if the company that made them, Threadco, are even still going. There's even the original instructions in there, but these things are fantastic. They work a bloody treat. Just if you are going to be hitting your piece, just support it properly, and yeah, the screws should come loose. Yeah, tubers, that'll be right. Undid easily. Just cracked them loose. There's probably a little bit of crap on the threads, but yeah, just cracks them loose, and yeah, away you go. You can undo it all. I'm trying to do this one-handed because I don't have a tripod, so we'll unscrew these, bung them in there. That one's being a bit tight. No, there we go. Let's see what happens. That may or may not come off. Bit of a top. And, oh, there we go. And in there, looks like a bearing. Yeah, okay, we'll keep going. Just wiped off the back of that bearing, guys. It says Australia. UBCO or UBCO, whatever that is, and a LE6, which would be a part number. But now that bearing has either been replaced or it's the original, but being made in Australia, and I've been in Australia since, well, for 58 years, and I couldn't tell you the last time we made bearings, I tell you. I mean, because they all come from bloody China or Japan or Europe. So, yeah, that's interesting, that. So possibly, I'm only suggesting, possibly this is an Australian piece, but we'll keep going. Similar thing with the other end tubers. Australian branded bearing. So I'd say they're factory original. This appears to be what's left of a seal. Now you can see the spring. Don't know if you can make that out. That's the spring, and it appears to have, I don't know. It's a funny looking seal, unless that's only half of it. Now I'm thinking it might only be half of it, because if you look in the end of this housing, see in there, looks like there used to be something that threaded in there or something like that, and it looks a bit flogged out. So I don't know. I'm tipping it had a seal on it, because the other end just had a plug with a washer on it to seal it. So I'm tipping that had a seal. So I might have to try and match up a seal and possibly machine that out to take another seal. We'll look into that. Well, we've just split him tubers. Come apart easy enough. A couple of seals, bearings or bushings, another seal. There's the worm drive in there. We haven't got that far yet. A bit scratched in that there. It may have been down before. We'll clean it all up. On this bushing, it says, I don't know if you can make that out, Scintillite. And on this one, yeah, Scintillite. Just trying to get the light right for you. Scintillite BE6. So that must be a part number or something. But yeah, that's the output shaft, as it were. Yeah, it doesn't look too, I mean, it's a bit rugged. It needs a good tidy up. But we'll bung it in the lathe and clean it all up and that, and see how we go. Just a little precaution, tubers. I've just, if you look there, bloody light, on top of the bush there's a little centre punch. On the shaft there's a centre punch, and on the housing there's a light centre punch. What that'll tell me is the shaft goes that way, that side of the housing with that bushing, just so we're putting things back the same as it was, you know, in the beginning. Because it may have been machined that way, and if I put it back wrong, it may bind up or anything. Tubers, this is one of the end housings off the, I suppose, the worm section of this gear reduction. I'm trying to clean it up and make it nice. It's got some dents in it, as you can see. I wanted to put it in the lathe and turn it down, but any material I take off, it'll end up taking half of this lettering with it. So I've polished that up as best I can. Yeah, I'd like to get it nicer, but I don't want to lose the lettering. So sometimes I guess you're just bloody well stuck with what you've got. Also been cleaning up some of the hardware, the nuts and bolts, put new fibre washers on them, that sort of thing. You know, just tar them up a bit, make them nice. That actually screws in the side of the housing, but if you look at it, it's actually got a hole through the middle. I don't know why, and because it's not. I thought, oh, maybe it's a level plug for oil, but it's full of grease, so maybe it acts as a breather. Don't know, but anyway, and yeah, polished up a few of the screws and that, so they look all right. So I suppose by the time you put a few of them in the end of that, it'll start to dress up all right, I suppose. But we'll see how we go. We'll do our best. Well, guys, started a basic clean-up of these parts for this gear reduction. Got most of the grease and that. It was just that thick of grease. Not too bad. A little bit of wear in a few spots. What I want to do is clean up a few of the rough castings. Just tidy it up a little bit, spots like that. Looks like someone's had a go at it in the past. You can see someone's tried to drill a hole or elongate these holes for some reason. I doubt it would have been done at the factory. Probably someone's tried to retrofit it onto something else or whatever, but I'll clean them up as best I can. Once again, I'll just clean up some of the rough casting. Casting's a bit porous in a couple of spots there. In there, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it sits in a bush anyway. So yeah, we'll clean that up. That's one of the end housings. I think I mentioned it earlier. It looks as if there was a seal in there, and for some reason, that's gotten completely chopped out. Now, I don't exactly know how I'll fix that just yet, but I'll have to put a seal back in it, of course. So yeah, so we'll screw around with that. The worm shaft appears to be quite serviceable. Just needs, a bit of a clean up. And as I say, this is only a preliminary clean. The shaft on the end is pretty dodgy. Now, I could run the lathe over that, but that'll make it undersized. And I don't know, the only sort of unmarked spot I've got is right there. And if I measure it there, that'll be what it has to be. I'm thinking I can build it up with weld and turn it down. Cutting the keyway's not as easy as that. But having said that, I'm worried if I heat it up too much, it might bend a little bit. Now, I suppose if I keep the heat low and that, it might be all right, but it's pretty crappy. Someone's really butchered it. I guess you'd call it an output shaft. Once again, someone's had a go at it. The other end's all right. It had that had the gear sprocket on it. Yeah, she's all right in there. A little bit worn in there. I think a little bit of machine. There's an 18.5, telling people what size it is, and 2.5 down there. I don't know what that's for, but anyway. And that appears to be a timing mark. Now, how the hell you would time one of these is beyond me, but we'll have a look into that. Nice brass gear, or bronze, whatever it is. Yeah, as I say, it's only a preliminary clean-up. There's still a bit of gunk on it that I've got to clean. That's that top housing. Not too bad, pretty serviceable actually. It'll clean up nice. I've just given it a rough clean. Once again, I'll detail it, get rid of some of the rough castings in there like that, and just detail it up a little bit. I'm not going to paint it. It was originally aluminium or magnesium alloy, whatever it is. We'll just dress it up as best we can, I think. I mean, yeah, it might, I don't know. I'm not thinking of paint at the moment, but found out a little bit more. Threadco. It was actually a company called Threadco All Gears, and they worked out of Sydney. and they made this sort of thing. I came across, actually how I found that out, I came across a catalogue on eBay and had a look, and be buggered, there it was. And the bearings, which are still in the parts washer, they had UBCO on them, which was Universal Bearing Company, and they were manufactured in Echuca up the top of Victoria there until about the early 70s, I think, and they were taken over by a company called SKF, which I think is a European interest, and since then have shut long ago. So Australia doesn't make any bearings or anything that I know of anyway. So yes, I would suggest that it has been made in Australia. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know, but the point here, I guess, is, yeah, back then we used to make all sorts of stuff like that: cars, machines, engines, reduction gearboxes. We don't make any of that now, so it's a bit sad. Manufacturing's dropped right off in Australia on a lot of things. There's still some things. But yeah, so all right, so we'll start doing a bit of clean up and tidy up, and once again, I can't really show you that because I need both hands, and this is with a mobile phone and I haven't got a tripod. So anyway, we'll get at it. Well, that's the base of it done, tubers. Not too bad. I'd sort of stuck it in the mill and ran it across the bottom, ran it around the edges there. Tried to clean up these holes a bit. There's not much you can do because they're bloody oval. Didn't do really anything on top other than a light going over with the light, a real light going over with the whetstone, just to sort of clean it. I don't want to change the levels because that'll change the height on these bloody bushings and it might all jam it up or whatever. Countersunk the holes a little bit. Yeah, it didn't come up sort of too bad. Anyway, actually, talking of cleaning up parts, I've seen a few guys on, more so with motors or engines, they'll go to great pains to clean and paint and all of their engine, you know, and all of this, and then once they've done all that and got it spotless, they'll start doing their machine work. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I can't understand that, because you're just readmitting dirt and metal filings and shavings and grinding paste and so on back into the job. I just don't understand it. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Well, I know there's something wrong with me, but I tell you what, there's a lot of people running me a very close second. And that's the top part cleaned up, tubers. Didn't machine that face, just cleaned it up with the whetstone lightly. Cleaned them up, ran all the threads. Yeah, just, you know, milled off the top a little bit, cleaned off the rough castings. I don't think I'll paint it. Should look all right, you know, just in raw aluminium. Yeah, so anyway, so that's those two parts cleaned up. That'll be all right. I've got to finish off the nuts and bolts and that, but now I'll turn my attention to these things. That there, you can see, don't know how clear you're getting this. That's where the seal runs. It is worn down a bit. I'm thinking I might just run a tiny little bead of weld around that and machine it down. The other side will be all right. But having said that, I want to clean all that up. So once again, I just don't know, I mean, I can run a bead of weld easy. It's not the weld that's the problem. I'm worried that I may bloody warp the thing. I just don't know. So I'll have to do a little bit of research and find out what I can. See if I can do this without warping it. Just been doing some measuring and all that shit, as you can see, because this shaft's much the same. This is the input shaft. Well, that's where you would hook the input. and so on and so on. And that's really bad, so, and I want to clean it up. So as I say, I'll do a bit of research tonight and find out if I can put a little bit of heat on this from the MIG welder and without sacrificing the straightness. We'll see what happens. Well guys, we ran a bit of weld around the output shaft, tried to keep the heat down, and we're going to stick it in the lathe now and start turning and see what happens. Guys, rightly or wrongly, I'll start off by drilling a little centre hole in the end of the shaft. That way I can put a live centre in it and just give it a bit more support. As I say, I'm no machinist, so we're just winging this. Starting to get pretty close now, tubers. The shaft appears to be running straight. That's by eye, of course. We'll just take down the last little bit with this little shearing tool. It's only good for taking like a thou or whatever, you know what I mean? You can't take heaps off, but it leaves a pretty nice finish. So, yeah, we'll see how we go. Well, tubers, that's that bit done. The shaft still appears to be running straight, although I haven't had a dial indicator on it. Surface come up all right. That's still the original. That's still the original. That's where the seal ran. Now, I think there's a little bit of give in those seals. Now, I'm about 4 thou under that and that. I can live with that. I think it'll be all right. Like I say, I'm no precision machinist, but it got rid of the notch out of it and all of that, and feels quite smooth. So the seal should be fine. So I think we'll have a go at the other end and see what happens. Well, this one, tubers, this is the other end of this output shaft. We've just done that, as you know. In this area, the seal area looks pretty good, so I'm just going to do a light polish on that. Except this end, where you put your sprocket or whatever, or your pulleys or whatever, it just looks like crap. Now, I'm not going to spend all this time to put that back on like that, and I don't want to machine it down because, as I've said before, I'll lose the factory size or dimension there. So we're going to build this up with a bit of weld in a couple of spots and do the same thing and turn it down and keep our fingers crossed that we don't bloody well destroy it or bend it. Well, there it is, tubers. That's the other end done. Look, it's not bad. I'm no bloody expert at doing this sort of stuff. You can see where I've done spots of weld. A little bit cruddy around the keyway. I don't have a mill end or whatever that size to make it really nice, but look, it'll pass. It'll do the job. A little bit there, but I mean, I think it looks better than what it did. As I say, I think the part will be all right. It's, yeah. I mean, you know, what do you want from a person who's no machinist? But it doesn't mean we won't have a go. Well, guys, I'm going to have a go at the input shaft now. We've got to get it up to that size. As you can see, it's been butchered. I mean, anything I can do is only going to be an improvement. I mean, it might not be 100%, and I still don't have a mill end or whatever to cut a key, but that's all right. That's not a huge problem. We're going to run some weld and turn it down and see what happens. Well, guys, she looks like a dog's breakfast, but we faced it off a bit, put a countersink in the end of it so we can support it, and just slowly turn it down and see what happens. It looks like it's running pretty straight in the lathe, so I don't think I've buckled it, but we shall see as we go. Well, there it is, guys. Good as I can do. A couple of little spots. And then there. Around the keyway it looks a bit cruddy. Once again, I didn't want to go berserk. The key seems to fit in nice and tight. I don't know. I don't think it's any worse than what it was. She'll be right. Looks okay. Well, tubers, back on the little reduction gearbox. The shops are finally open. Lockdown finished last night. So I thought I'll go down and get some new bearings. Can't match them. The ones have got a slightly larger or slightly smaller, which means I'd have to go for the larger one and machine that out. And I don't know how to bloody do that. So that ain't happening. So it'll be all right. There's no load really on it. I'm not hooking it up to anything. Got a new seal for that. Obviously, I'm not going to put that back in it. Too much work to fix it. Made a brand new one. So we've just finished that. Seems to have come up all right. It sort of looks the same. Bung a new seal in it. We're just about ready to start putting this back together. As you can see, I painted it black. The aluminium look, it just wasn't coming up nice. It was sort of dull like that, and that's aluminium, of course. But yeah, I'll give it a lick of black, and yeah, it'll be all right. It'll look nice. Continuing assembly, guys. Just pushed in that bearing on the input shaft. Pushed in. We used a brass or bronze drift and a hammer. Support it properly. The housing. When you're pushing these bearings or tapping them in or anything, you've got to find or work out where the interference point is and hit it there. In other words, between the shaft and the inner race, that wasn't that tight, just a very light tap it went on. However, between the housing and the outer race, this area in here is really tight. Now, when you're tapping the bearing, tap it on the outer race, not on the inner one. There's not much load on there's no load on the inner one at this point. It's all on the outside. So tap it there. It'll go a lot easier and you won't risk damaging the bearing, and that's turning just fine. So yeah, it's just a little thing to watch out for, but it applies to, most bearings and that sort of stuff. Well, that's the input shaft in, guys. She still turns, as you can see. I don't know exactly where these bearings have got to sit, so all I've done is that distance from there to there, if you can see that, is the same on the other end as well. So they're both 3.5mm recess in there. That would tell me hopefully that it's in the middle there. I guess it's got to run sort of central on that, central that way and central that way. I don't know, but that's how I'm going to try and set it. So we'll keep going, but the bearings are in, the input shaft's in. And there it is, tubers. The little Threadco reduction gearbox is done. Shaft didn't come up too bad with the seal on that. As I say, the keyway's got to be, machined, but then as I say, the key fits it beautifully. So I haven't put the sprocket on yet, but it turns over all right in that. Blacked all the nuts and bolts, polished up the little filler cap. You can see the 18.5 to 1 actually. So yeah, it didn't come up all right. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it now, but the seal sort of went in there okay. So yeah, that's it. Job done.
Yeah, well, that's it for that, tubers. Yeah, it didn't come up too bad, I think. I'll try and think of a project to hook it up to and power something. Anyway, that's down the track. Just remember with these things, and I've said it before, it's not how good or how bad or how right or how wrong. It's just how much fun you have doing it. And like I say, you don't have to meet anyone's expectations but your own. And if someone wants to criticise your work, whatever that is, you know why they criticise it? Because they're jealous, because they can't do it, or they're too scared to have a go themselves. So whatever you're doing, go out, enjoy it. Have fun, people. Stay clear of the China virus, and I shall talk to you guys really soon.